Candice, let's talk about measles. Why are they on the rise?
Well, so this is a story in the Metro. There's been surging cases of measles, and they've linked it to parents avoiding the MMR vaccine. They think, you know, some of this misinformation that still persists about it have meant more and more parents are shunning it. And to give you some idea of just how much it has surged, apparently across Europe, up to October last year, there were 30,000 cases compared to 941 the year before.
Oh, my goodness,
so that's a massive increase. I mean, I still think a lot of this is the damage that was done years ago when it was spuriously linked to autism.
Well, I think they'd recovered from that, and this has been another setback, but it's all about herd immunity, isn't it? And if you have this drop, then everybody's suddenly a bit more vulnerable. And so that's why it's been declared this national incident by officials. The question is whether or not they'll be able to turn things around. I mean, I know in the last week I've had a text from my GP surgery just making sure that all immunisations up to date and wanting to check that, you know, my child's had all their vaccines, which I'm pleased to say they have, and you should and you must.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, the legacy of anti-vax kind of hangs over
I was going to
us
say
all.
it's part of that bigger culture of kind of vaccine scepticism, which I can never understand, because anybody I've ever heard talking about vaccine scepticism, well, you don't know what's in it, they say. Well, no, you don't. But then you don't know what's in a tin of beans, but you eat those.
Yeah.
So I've never really understood why people think they're the experts on this, and really they're not.
Yes.
Really interesting story that you've chosen, Susan, now, about the price of funerals. We're talking about inflation this morning, how our cost of everything's on the rise, but this is a significant jump.
Yes, it does seem to be. Funeral prices are hitting kind of 4,000 on average. That's either cremation or burial. It can be that. And this, I've been kind of concerned about this for a while, really, considering that, you know, not to kind of, you know, plot spoiler, it's what's going to happen to everybody. We do all go at some point, and yet we don't seem to have kind of got the whole end of life from care through to funeral sorted in any way, it seems to me. And there's a terrible case that they've picked up in the Daily Mail of a lady who thought she died at 96 and thought that she'd got it all sorted. She'd taken out insurance with Scottish Widows. She'd paid £9,000 over 17 years, and the payout should have been £5,545. So you could argue that would have been just better if she'd kept it in the bank and earmarked it, really. But what they've said here is that the family are saying, well, Granny is still stuck in a fridge because they haven't managed to get the payout. So people who even are worried about it and try and do the best thing.
But, you know, I'm a great believer in doing the right thing, and if I was running a company and that came to my attention today, I would be shamed. I'd be absolutely embarrassed, and pen pushing wouldn't get in the way for me on this. I'd be just saying, give that woman a marvellous send-off and apologise to her family for even creating an issue out of this. She's paid 9,000 quid.
Yeah, and people are the most vulnerable. But I do think, I mean, that whole giving them a good send-off thing, I think people feel so... It's like the opposite end of the whole wedding industry, isn't it? That sometimes, and this is a very personal view, I do sometimes think that funerals are kind of overblown. People sometimes think that's the right thing to do, but sometimes a funeral isn't what the family or the people want. They want a direct cremation that is just... And people should be allowed to make their own choices and not just feel, well, we have to do this and we have to pay that, and if we don't do that, we didn't love them enough.
What I do say, I'm fed up with all this moaning. People, oh, I haven't got any money to bury myself and whatever. The amount of older people, for instance, my mother, before she died last year, was, now the money from a funeral is upstairs, you've got all that there, and she had the money all set by and everything there for that. People who, again, do the right thing. So all these other people are sitting going, 2,500 quid to get me buried? Oh, where would you get that money from? Well, you should have saved for that money. That should be an essential part of living. Dying should be an essential part of living.
Do you think as people, as we go on, do you think younger people won't do that the way that the older generation did?
I absolutely agree. I think the best tribute you can pay to any person who's alive is to turn up at their funeral, or to give them a good send-off.
I agree, yeah.
And I absolutely think this business of, oh, did she die? Oh, didn't know, wasn't there, didn't go to the funeral. I mean, particularly, I would say this about England and this part of England that we live in. There's a lot of people who just don't know each other, don't bother with each other, don't know. There's certain communities around the country where it's very, very important. But the tribute, I mean, listen, I'm old enough to remember when you pulled the blinds down in the street when someone died, or that you tipped your cap when a cortege passed, or you slowed up behind. a funeral cortege. Nowadays, they're more likely to honk to get round it.
You can't stay in
no
a
respect.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
absolutely
But you
no
see, the
respect.
Irish do that kind of thing particularly well, don't they? Whereas in this country, it's more the Victoria Wood kind of thing. Of, you go into the kitchen and it's 76 baps, you slice, I'll spread kind of thing. It's not kind of done in the same sort of spirit, I don't think, which is what kind of people kind of...
Yeah, although I remember when my grandfather passed away in the north of England, there was a lot of tipping of the hat.
Was
I
there?
remember, yes, as we drove through the streets.
Well, good, so there
Very
should be.
tight community, though, I think.
That's a nice thing to do.
Yeah.
But anyway, if I got away with 4,000 quid from a funeral, I'd be quite lucky. I'm going to die broke, basically, so that HMRC can't get any more money
It's not a
from
bad
me.
plan.
But I'm gonna die broke, and I'm gonna spend whatever's left over on a funeral.
I laughed so hard that I've given myself a crick in the neck. I really...
What does it say?
You know, I thought, I said I wanted all these women like you
dressed as
three,
Black
dressed in
Widows.
black and weeping. Well, I also want maybe like 6 or 8 pallbearers.
OK.
I look at my brothers. I love my brothers, but I think one will wear an orange coat, one will wear a green one will wear... They'll be all over the place and whatever it is. I would dress them all. I would say, you're all wearing black. Booked you into this tailor.
Do we need veils? Would you like us in veils?
I literally look...
Is that what we're
I look
thinking?
great in black. It's my best colour, and I love a bit of funeral chic, so I'll do you proud.
Spend all your money, wine, women and song, and just waste the rest.
Yeah.
Glamorous widow.
So there you are, 4,000 quid if you're going to get yourself buried. Buried or cremated?
Buried.
Buried.
Cremated. I don't care.
okay.
I won't be here.
Okay.
Can we talk about reading to children? I'm absolutely loving Rudyard Kipling. I'm reading The Jungle Book to my son at the moment.
Yes.
His first time reading it, and it is such a joy. Why is it important to read to children, Candice?
Oh, well, it's so important. So the author of Warhorse has written to Rishi Sunak to basically say that we need a lot more support for lower-income families who are not being read to, because it is so important for language acquisition and learning to read and learning to write. And apparently just under half of children under 4 are read to every evening. So, what can we do, though? He said increasing the funding. I thought something like, could we have more mobile libraries or things like that, or organising more reading sessions at the local library? Because it's good to say increase the funding, but what's the actual practical
Stop
policy?
party bags after birthdays and give them all a book.
That's what we're doing, yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Great idea.
Loads of people do that.
But again, it's not just education, is it? And that is a very important. And I think, as a writer myself and as somebody who worked in journalism, I don't remember having that many kind of lessons in grammar at school, but I learnt how to spell and how to write from reading.
Yes.
That's where you actually get that information.
Yes.
But more than that, it's actually for children in any kind of difficulty. It's a gateway to another world.
Yeah.
It's a friend that you can trust and that you can go to whenever you want. There's all those sort of things that
there's all that.
books
Yes.
give you
Yes.
that other things don't.
Yes.
And it's
I feel.
exercising a muscle, isn't it? If you don't train that muscle, you'll never get it. And we
I'd
know
love to
that...
stamp out party bags and bring in a book for every child
me
as they
too.
leave.
All
at
that
home.
plastic
agree
tap that
with
litters
that.
up my house. Show me a parent that likes a party bag.
No.
I so agree with that, because I'm busy planning my son's 5th, because it's his birthday in February, and I'm spending so much already, and I'm like, must I really have a party bag with loads of rubbish in it?
Yeah.
Why do we have to do
Get
that?
a book from Costco,
And
sorted.
there's nothing wrong with them,
Yes.
but children's books don't have to be written by David Williams. There's lots and lots of books
Oh,
out
I
there.
totally agree as well. I'm sorry, but yeah, that's
Nothing
why
wrong with them, but they're just
Rudyard
not the
Kipling
only
is
ones. They're
proper
not the only
literature.
ones. And let's be
all my kids are now well grown up, and I was very proud that I read to them, and they used to say to me now, they'll say, Dad, we used to hate you reading to us.
no children.
Why? I said, because you always filled it full of sound effects.
Did you do all silly voices?
All sorts of things.
But your grandkids must love that. I bet they love that.
they will.
Ladies, thank you both very much. Good morning, Annie.